of the Always Believe House. Oh, today we're going to keep talking about parabolas. Oh, parabolas give you more power. We're going to talk about the domain and the range of the parabolas and more key attributes. Remember, the domain of a function is the x value. The range of a function is the y values. That's really important what we're going to learn today. So a magical whiteboard appears, and let's start rocking and rolling. Okay, remember, on here, right down the domain, going to kind of zoom in to number 1, is the x values. And the range is the y values. Okay? If there's an arrow on it, it's going to keep going. Okay? Just remember that. So let's look at number 1. Okay? The graph models A, the area of the square of a rectangular porch that's a length of 0.56 and less than 28, the width. Basically what happens, as you, if you keep the length constant, as you expand the width and the length, the area changes, okay? The closer you get to a square, the more the area you get. So really quickly, let's do the domain. The domain is going to be our x's, right? And the domain starts at here and goes to here, doesn't it? So it's going to go from 0 to what? 50. So the way you write that, you put 0 and 50, you put x in the middle for the domain, and then you always use less than or equal symbols unless there's an open dot. So this is how you write the domains between 0 and 50. Does everyone click on that? No math, okay? Just go from least to greatest, and then put x in the middle for the domain, and then put less than symbols. Now then, let's do the range. The range is going to go from here to here, isn't it? So the range is going to be all the numbers from here to here. It starts at 0, and it goes up to the, what, is that 350? Yeah, 350, okay? So it's going to start at 0 and go up to 350. So my range is going to start at 0 and go up to 350. So when you, Jiminy Crickets. When you do your range, you want to go from the bottom to the top, okay? So we're going to go from the bottom to the top, put y in the middle, and then the same thing. Less than or equal signs, okay? Piece of cake. Now then on your domain, remember, let's put it down here, 0 less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 50, and your range is 0 less than or equal to y, less than or equal to 350. Your range will always do from left to right, okay? So your range will, or your domain will go from left to right, your range will go from bottom to top. And you always use less than or equal symbols in them. Let's go to the next one. Okay, on the next one, there's an arrow tip, okay? So let's say this car starts off at $12,000, okay? So that's where the car starts off, and then it's going to crater down. This really isn't a quadratic function, it's exponential. But the lowest the price of the car is going to get is right here, okay? So let's say that's the lowest it goes, okay? But the domain starts here, and then it keeps going to the right, doesn't it? It never ever ends, does it? Okay? So the way you would write that, your domain is going to be x, and it's going to be greater than or equal, that matches the arrow tip, right? 0, it starts at 0, doesn't it? So the domain starts at 0, and it keeps going. So your domain would be x greater than or equal to 0. Now then, let's look at your range. Your range is going to go from here, which is 3,000, up to right here, which is 12,000, isn't it? So your range goes from 3,000 to 12,000, right? So you're going to go to here. The bottom of the chart is 3,000. The top is 12,000. You put y in the middle, and you put less than or equal symbols. Piece of cake, okay? Y'all haven't done this yet. You're just limiting your x's and you're limiting your y's, okay? Let's go to number 3. Okay, same thing. We're going to get our domain and range. This is another exponential function. It's not really quadratic, okay? But let's look at what happens on the domain. Okay, so our domain is going to start at 0, and notice this keeps going. It's going to keep going to the right. So the domain is just going to keep going to the right. So the domain starts at 0, and it will never ever end because hopefully the company won't ever shut down, right? So your domain is going to be all of your x's that is greater than or equal to 0. Now then your range is also going to keep going up in it. Your range starts right here, which is 400, and it keeps going up, doesn't it? So the range doesn't start at 0, it starts at 400. So your range is going to be your y's, and it's going to be all of the y's greater than or equal to 400. Okay? Because of the arrow tip, okay? The arrow tip keeps going up, and the arrow tip keeps going to the right, so the domain and range just keep on going. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so your domain starts at here, and now then this is just going to keep going down, right? Now then, this is kind of bad because like it's going to stop when you get to here, but I don't know where it's going to stop. Let's just put a dot right here, okay? Because this is a bad graph because it could keep going down. So let's just put a dot, okay? And let's put the dot, make sure the dot is at 6, 11. Okay? This is a good exercise here. So your domain is going to go from the 0 all the way over here to the 6 in it. So your domain goes from 0 to 6. So 0 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 6. The range is going to go from the bottom to the top, right? So the range goes from here to here, doesn't it? It's going to go from 0 to 12 in it. So your range goes from 0 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 12. Notice that this number right here is not in your range, is it? The range is going to be the top of the parabola. Okay, excellent problem for you because this point doesn't go to your range. Turn the page. Okay, now then this is calculator based again. I'm only going to do one of these. So I'm going to do number 7. You're going to repeat the process. This is kind of more power because you're building the table. So the first thing we want to do is graph this problem and trace to the vertex. Okay, so we're going to go to the calculator. I'm going to hit Control T. Then I'm going to hit Delete, Delete, Delete. That gets rid of my graphs. Then hit the Tab button. You should have F1X when you hit the Tab button. Now then, I'm going to graph x squared minus 4x plus 7. So x squared, is it plus 4x? Minus 4x. Minus 4x plus 7. So x squared, oh, I didn't put my x. Won't work if I don't put the x. X plus 7. So I've graphed. Make sure you're graphing this correctly. If you don't put the right problem in there, it won't work. So I'm going to hit enter. I have the right graph in. And then I get my parabola. Notice this parabola does not cross the x-axis, does it? So it will not have zeros, will it? Now then, the plus 7 is going to be the y-intercept in it. Remember, the c term is your y-intercept. Let's hit Control T. So when we hit Control T, not Control T, sorry about that. Let's hit Graph Trace. So Menu, Trace is 5, and then Graph Trace is 1. Okay, so I notice I start off at 0, 7, which is the y-intercept. Now then, I'm going to hit the right arrow button until I get to the vertex. So and it'll be a minimum on it. So hit the right arrow button until you get to the vertex, which is right here. 2, 3 is my vertex in it. So I'm going to go to the problem, and I'm going to say my vertex is 2, 3. That goes in the middle of the table. Now then, I'm going to go back to the graph. The vertex always goes in the middle. So you write that down on his. This will be the vertex, and this will be the vertex, right? Now then, you need 2 dots above the vertex and 2 dots below the vertex. So let's go to the calculator, and then hit Escape to get rid of the graph trace, and then Control T. And then I get my table. 2, 3 was in the middle of it, right? I need 2 dots above it and 2 dots below it. So 3 is going to be 4, and 4 is going to be 7. So I'm going to have 3 is 4, and 4 is 7. Then I need my 1 and 0 done. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to hit the up button. And notice the 1 and 0 are going to be the same numbers, aren't they? Okay? So this is going to be 7, and this is going to be 4. Now that I can graph these ordered pairs and graph the parabola. So 2, 3, and then 1, 4, 2, 4, and then 7 and 7. So the parabola is going to look something like this, right? So the axis of symmetry is right here, and that's going to be my x equal 2 on it. The domain, y'all listen, this is important. The domain is going to go from here to here. The way you write that down, capital R stands for real numbers. So for the domain, on a graph like this, your domain will always be all capital R and then put numbers. The domain will always be all real numbers on a graph. In a real life problem, it's going to probably be limited. Okay? Now that your range is your y's. It's going to start here and go up in it. So the range is going to be limited to 3 in it. So it's going to be all of the y's that are greater than, because we're going up, greater than or equal to 3. And the roots are the same thing as the zeros. That's your x-intercepts. There are no zeros. Okay, so for the zeros, you would do that. If you need to, you're going to trace to them on the calculator to get your zeros, okay? Turn the page. Let's do this one right here, okay? So the first thing you want to do is plot the vertex. The vertex is right here, and it's at 2, -9. So my vertex is at 2, -9. The axis of symmetry is this number right here in it. It would look just like this, and it would be x equals 2. Okay, and I've drawn the axis of symmetry on the graph, okay? The x-intercepts are here and here, which is -1 and 5. Those are called the zeros, aren't they? Draw a triangle around each x-intercept. I just drew circles, draw triangles. The y-intercept is right here, which is -5. Draw a circle around it, I did. And the vertex is 2, -9. Draw a square around the vertex. So you got to triangle the x-intercept, circle the y-intercept, square around the vertex. Got it? You could do that on your own, okay? Lastly, turn the page. Let's look at this. Okay, on this problem right here, this will be a graph on it. So the domain is going to be all real numbers. So the only ones that don't work, this one won't work and this one won't work, won't it? Okay? Now then, let's graph this function. And I'm going to use -0.5 for the 1/2, okay? So I'm going to go to the calculator, hit Control-T, hit delete, delete, delete. Think of a bad thought when you do that. Hit Enter, then hit Tab. Not Control. Hit Tab. Jiminy crickets, what did I just do? Delete, delete, delete. Then hit Tab. Oh, now that I can graph, okay? So it's going to be -0.5 parentheses. Let me make sure I did that right. -0.5 parentheses x minus 3 plus 2. So x minus 3 close parentheses squared plus 2. Later on, you will learn that this is vertex form. My vertex is going to be 3, 2. You'll learn that next week, okay? Hit Enter, and I get this parabola, don't I? Now then, the domain will be all real numbers on it. I need to trace to the vertex. So I'm going to hit Menu, Trace is 5, and then 1 is Graph Trace. Notice 0, -2.5 is my y-intercept, and I'm going to trace up until I get to the top. And it's going to say maximum on it. And also, y'all watch this. The 0 is 1. Y'all notice that? When you trace, you could get your zeros, okay? And it will say 0 on it, okay? Then I'm going to keep hitting the right arrow button until I get to the top, and it's going to say maximum. Okay, right here, 3, 2. So my vertex is at 3, 2. Later on, you'll learn that 3, 2 is your vertex. So let's write 3, 2 down, and let's just draw this graph. Okay, so this graph is going to do this and come right here, and the top is at 3, 2 in it. That means your range is going to do this in it. So the range is going to be less than all the numbers of 2. So y less than or equal to 2, and it's not here, is it? Or, is that right? 3, 2. This is a bad problem, okay? Your range should be all of the y's less than or equal to 2, and the domain is all real numbers. This is not correct, okay? That's not right because it's not y. That's not right, it's not y. And this is not right because it's 12. It's going to be A, okay? That is a very bad problem, okay? Because your range is going to have your maximum in it, not your min, or not your axis of symmetry. So your domain would be all real numbers, and the range would be y less than or equal to 2. And I think that's all I'm going to do for you, okay? Make sure you do the rest on your own. If you need help, message your teacher. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Remember, you are amazing. You are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.